Alright. Comic review again and again and again. I think it's the same amount, too. Just 4 books. And it did a little glitch there. Good little lag, because I just connected to Wi-Fi. My iPad is old, so it probably was like, what happened? What just happened? And then it just got, I don't know. But, yeah, the iPad it's the iPad Mini 4. And if that means nothing to you, it is 10 years old. When it first released, I got it for my birthday. I don't remember which birthday, so that probably says a lot more than the year would. But anyways, I want to say 2019. But anyways, let's get right into it. First up, and it was definitely after high school. So remember high school, entirety of high school, I had to make do with the oldest iPad known to man. And then you got the second oldest iPad known to man. Anyways, Scalped is the first one up. This is volume 9 of 10. And unfortunately, it's gonna be a no surprise, no real change kind of thing. I say unfortunately because it's kind of just like boring, for someone to say, well, you're just reading volume 9, you feel the same way, like what's the point? Well, I think there is some point. I do like to keep mentioning the fact that I get to finally finish this series. But this one is a bit different, actually, because this is the first volume of Scalped I've not read. For those of you who don't know, quick little Cliff Notes version is I read Scalped a long time ago and was super pissed off to find out they didn't have volume 9. They said not available. Can't even get in softcover. Yeah, I had to make do. And I was reading the hardcover. I was like, you know what? I'll make do. I'll get the softcover. Softcover volume 9. Is that in? No, it wasn't. And it was really annoying is that it definitely was. Because it wasn't like it was, a year later they get it. No, because this book came out in, I just think they got it? Sometimes it does. Yes, 2017. So, yes, they definitely had it. I was not reading this back in 2017. I was reading this back in 2019, 2020. At the latest, 2021. At the earliest, 2018. Even that is kind of pushing it. So it was just weird. They said, nope, we don't have it. It was the old library catalog. That's how long ago it's been. How long it's been. And the second time around, I don't know. Maybe it was the second time around, reading it all the way through, and then it was times before that, but I never got to the next volume. Maybe I forgot about it or something. I don't know. Point is, I'm finally gonna be able to finish it, and I can finally officially add it to my top 5 because this is definitely top 5 material. If not that, it'd be number 6. At the worst, but even that kind of seems like it's a bit of a. I don't like that way that sounds, kind of thing. It's just because of how tight the top 5 is. Like top 5 is like perfect comics, nothing wrong with them, 10 out of 10, perfect in every way, shape, and form. Evolves the medium, maybe even, but just like a 100% recommends. And that is what Scalped is. This volume did have a lot that I was like, oh wow, I'm surprised that I didn't expect that to happen. Not really plot turns, there is a huge plot turn, but more just like, that's kind of nice, kind of. And I hope everything works out in the end. Come on, I know it's been like completely grisly and what's the word they use for crime comics? Like grisly and just come on, what is the word? I can't think of the word, but just kind of depressing and dark and all of that. But we can have a happy ending. Come on, no, I'm not. I know what I'm expecting to have it end at. The ending I'm expecting probably won't happen, so that's why I'm just excited to see how it all wraps up in volume 10. Wonder Woman Volume 6. This was a reread. Rereading the New 52 series all over again because I want to reread the DC Rebirth series because it has been a long time since I got into the Rebirth series. But New 52 I read about like every 6 months or so, and that in Preacher is definitely with Preacher, but it started here. It was defined with Preacher, but started with Wonder Woman, is that I like the series so much I had to read it every 6 months just to refresh my memory and then get on to the Meredith Finch run, which I think is a worthy enough follow-up. Not nearly as good as Brian Azzarello's run, but still a worthy follow-up. But this is the final volume in Brian Azzarello's run, and I still really love it. I still think it's one of the best Wonder Woman runs ever, and I don't care about the changes they made. I think it grounds Wonder Woman in reality, and the whole Clay thing is a bit outdated. It is one of those things that I hate when people say that term, use that term for comics, like, oh, this is outdated. We need to change this part of his origin or her origin, and I always like scoff. But with Wonder Woman being made out of clay, I think that is a bit ridiculous, especially when you're trying to take this character super seriously. And yeah, you can still have that one ridiculous thing, and everything else follow suit is so engaging, captivating that you don't care. But I still think it's like, I like the change they made, is all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say what it is, just in case you don't know what it is. But I like the change they made to her origin story. And I still really dig Brian Azzarello as a writer. Kind of pissed off he's coming back for 100 Bullets. That series is already over 100 issues long. You need more. But then again, I think it is. I haven't finished 100 Bullets. I'm trying to talk about my goddamn dog wants to bark at nothing. But I think that the 100 Bullets series is an anthology, so it does make sense. I'm not going to say, like, oh my god, it's like ruining the legacy of a series I haven't even finished. But it's like, come on. Now I have to buy another 5,000 volumes. Because is it going to be an ongoing or is it going to be a miniseries? I don't know. It was a little side tangent. But yes, absolutely love Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman run. I give this a 10 out of 10 too. Definitely, I want to say it's one of the best character runs of all time. Not just Wonder Woman, but character runs in general. Now, I've not read a whole lot of Wonder Woman. That is the biggest disclaimer I would like to give to this Wonder Woman run, is that I have not read a whole lot of Wonder Woman. I have read as far as all the way through New 52 and Rebirth. So Greg Rucka's Rebirth run, Brian Azzarello's New 52 run, and then the stuff in between, the Meredith Finch stuff. And then I read some orphaned issues from other runs, and then some random Wonder Woman comics. There was this one that was awful. It was this 9-issue miniseries. I forget what it was called. It came out like about 10 years ago. And it was just, I hated it. But other than that, like, this is definitely by far the best run of Wonder Woman. I've not read the Tom King Wonder Woman run. Unfortunately, my library does not have it. And every time they have a sale, it's still too expensive. I'm not even going to spend $5 per volume of Tom King's Wonder Woman run. I'll give it a chance if it's like $2.99 per volume and the series is finished. I would consider doing that. But other than that, I'm kind of like, I don't want to spend much money on Tom King's Wonder Woman run. And it's way more than 2 volumes, too. Like, if it was just a 2-volume, 12-issue miniseries, maxi series at that point, that'd be fine. But it's like 5 volumes plus spin-off. Plus probably an event crossover. Sandman Universe Nightmare Country, Volume 2. This is the Glass House. And this one brings some old characters, obviously the Corinthian, but some characters I was not expecting to see return. And each and every one is my favorite. Like, I like all these characters, especially the main character, the main character, like one that's like the focal point of this volume and what the whole story revolves around. I really dug that, and I remembered just enough from Sandman, the original Neil Gaiman Sandman, that it was like, wow, you're following up on that and you're doing it justice and you're not spitting in the face of Neil Gaiman's legacy. Well fucking done. And there's not really any downsides. The only downside I'll give is what I give to Sandman in general is that is a bit uneven. And this is only 6 issues. Sandman, so those of you who don't know, Sandman, my favorite volume is Volume 5. My least favorite is Volume 6. And that picks up again with Volume 7. Volume 6 has pretty much everything I don't like in Sandman. I like the Orpheus story, though. That one I liked. But everything else, I was just like, ugh, I don't like this. And I honestly, it burns me so bad. Burned my ass so bad the first time I read it that I gave up on Sandman. I've read 1 issue of Volume 7, and I was like, I'm so burned out by Sandman, I don't even want to think about Sandman anymore, or else I'll explode. So I gave it a huge, long hiatus, saga-length hiatus, and then I jumped back on it. I still couldn't get through it. I think I just barely got through it. Sandman will never be my favorite series of all time. Now, my most recent reread was much better. I think every time I reread Sandman, I do find more and more to appreciate. And so if you asked me 5 years ago, what would I rate Sandman? I would say, well, I haven't finished that. I'm going to give you. If they had to give something, like 6 out of 10, I think it's overrated. Nowadays, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10, and I would say it's a tad overrated, but I understand why it's so critically acclaimed and why it's considered to be one of the most groundbreaking comics of all time. And I will give it huge props for doing what it did for the comics media. I will never, ever, ever say that Sandman was not important. It is vitally important. Even back then, when I was like, Sandman 6 out of 10, I would still say, hey, it paved the way for really good comics like Preacher and Y the Last Man and so on and so forth. And just birthed Vertigo, along with Watchmen. But I would argue that Sandman like really kicked the horse in the ass. How do you say that? Kicked into gear. Like kicked into gear. High horse, and he's trying to say, I don't know. Kicked the high horse into gear. That's, I was trying to mix two sayings into one. I don't know. But point is that I understand that's what it did for Vertigo, and then Preacher, and then Y the Last Man, and then got Image, and got this and that and that and this, and all started with Sandman. And I always have been very appreciative that Sandman exists so we get these much better comics. But nowadays, I'm definitely less of a curmudgeon about Sandman, and I can find a lot to appreciate out of it, even if every time I read it, I dread having to reread Volume 6. And the final volume I thought was just okay. It ends good, but I just kind of thought the last volume was just okay. But anyways, so going back to this, it does have a lot of what I do and don't like about Sandman. So even though I'm going to get an 8.5, it's with an asterisk explaining why I think it's good, I still love it. And so honestly, it's kind of the perfect because I'm giving Sandman in general an 8.5 out of 10. So very much, very ironic, very fitting that I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Then last but not least is Paper Girls. This is volume 1 of 3. I'm going to review the hardcovers as they come out, but when at the end of the month, when I do all the Image books I've read this month, it'll be my copy of the compendium. However, and I wanted to reiterate this, I am reading these oversized hardcovers. Why is that? My library had the oversized hardcovers. I had to interloan it, and I felt bad for doing all 3 at once, but hey, I get to read the series in oversized hardcover. Because this is top 5 material, and it still is top 5 material. It is one of the most engaging, enthralling, captivating, all those words. Can't express enough how captivating the series is. It holds on to you. It is the page turner. Cannot put this book down. All of that rolled into one. It is just so damn good. It's a shame we only got one season of the TV show, because we need this to be the next saga where everyone's talking about it. It gets greenlit, like honestly, in the next Game of Thrones, but for sci-fi. I honestly feel as though it would make the sci-fi genre resurface officially. Yeah, we have Dune, and that's great, but I think for this kind of sci-fi, like time travel sci-fi, I really think that Paper Girls are more. What's the word? More well advertised version of Paper Girls, because I feel like this wasn't advertised enough. People saw it and was like, oh, it's Stranger Things. I don't know, maybe have a little tongue-in-cheek ad that says the comic came out before Stranger Things, and we inspired Stranger Things. I don't know, but this is definitely 100% I recommend. It gets 10 out of 10. And that, as I say, is that 4 great comics to read for Spooky Month, which none of them are horror except for Sandman. Next week's video will be the comics I'm reading for the next the rest of the month, and some of them will be horror comics. So there you go.